This is the Scary Movie Clubcast.
Live from the clubhouse, it's a Scary Movie Clubcast. This is Amanda.
And Nadine.
And tonight we watched Vampire's Kiss. I am going to give it 3.5 Nick Cage rants.
I think that's reasonable. Honestly, same. I think 3.5 sounds exactly right. That many Nick rants. Pretty much a joy. Obviously, for what it is.
Yeah, it's silly, it's fun to watch, but it's not the greatest thing I've ever seen.
No, of course not. It's not game-changing, but it is fun.
Yeah.
If you see it at your local Dollar Tree, I recommend buying it.
Okay, so tonight we're talking about some of our favorite urban legends. And Nadine's going to take it first, starting with the legend of Bloody Mary.
Yes. Okay, alright, so I'm sure that most of us have, experiences with Bloody Mary. What was your, first experience with it?
Probably, the first time I did it, I remember it was, so freaky. I was really little. How old was I? I was, in 3rd grade. And we did it in my friend's house. But it was, it was this weird part of the house. We were still living in New York. My friend lived in this, old Victorian house. And it was a really cool house. It had this add-on, and there was, a bathroom that you could access from the outside. And we did it in that bathroom. And we turned off all the lights. And it was so freaky because that bathroom had no windows. And it's just all you can see is your, somehow you still see your reflection even in the dark. And it's so weird because it's nearly pitch black in there. And it's the creepiest thing.
So you guys didn't do it with a candle?
No candle. We were too young to be allowed to play with matches.
But not too young to use mirror divination.
No one's too young for mirror divination.
Yes, this was something that, right around the same age, I would do with my friends all the time. And, in lots of different ways, too. And then, how there's always, that one kid who, once it's over, tries to, get a jump scare in. So that was obviously me. And, of course, as soon as it was over, and my friend would be really scared, and I would, yank them or grab them or scream or
I think
something.
we even did it where we went in one at a time and did it. Ooh. And so I don't know if it was me or if we did it to someone else who went in there, but someone was in there and they banged on the door really loud after they'd been in there for a little while to really add to the freak out.
Yeah, it's friendship. But yeah, so there are lots of different ways, essentially. I guess it kind of depends on where you grew up or who told it to you, but there are lots of sort of offshoots of how to do it. Mm-hmm. Many of them include a candle, say that you have to have a candle, and then some of them don't. Most of them include a dark room with a mirror, which for most people is just naturally a bathroom. Yeah. And so there's nothing specifically saying it has to be a bathroom. It's more so the fact that it needs to be dark and a mirror, so most people just go to the bathroom.
Okay, I just thought of a synchronicity between our two urban legends.
Yes.
They're both connected by the Candyman.
Yes.
Because they're very much, he's a hook-handed man who murders people. Yeah. And you have to call to him in the mirror.
Yeah.
And then I also think that amazing mural downtown. That's a Candyman mural. Have you seen it?
I'm sure I have.
It's on the Riverwalk. And they always just have all these murals. And they get changed out every once in a while. People paint new ones. Oh. And one of them is a Candyman one. And the person put a mirror in it.
Oh, I love that.
I will say, unfortunately, someone has smashed the mirror since it was originally painted and stuck a bunch of those original wrappers in there.
Literally why?
Yeah, I don't know.
So one of the more original ways that it was said to be done was that you were supposed to walk upstairs backwards.
Oh, that's creepy.
Holding a hand mirror and a candle in the dark.
Never. That's asking to die.
I know.
Because even if Bloody Mary doesn't get you, you're going to fall down those stairs. You're going to light the house on fire with that candle when you fall down. You're going to break your neck.
Can you literally imagine how many things you're worried about in that moment? Literally, when I'm just standing in the bathroom, it's scary.
I don't, not to mention, even if you survived the fall and the house burning down, you broke a mirror. That's 7 years bad luck.
But the payoff you might get is that you might get a glimpse of your future hubby in the mirror.
Is it worth it?
Or if you're not going to get married, you'll get a glimpse of the Grim Reaper showing you that you're going to die before you get married.
Lovely.
Yeah, so high risk, high reward, I guess. Because, how high of a reward is it? I guess
not
in my mind, I'm I guess
very.
then you'd know him when you saw him.
Yeah, true that.
I'd have to know someone who was lying to me and telling me that it worked for them. Just seems crazy. So that's one of the biggest differences that I saw, where like I had never heard that until looking it up.
Yeah, me either.
But it seems very interesting. A lot of them will vary too with like how many times you have to say your name. There is one that says that you're supposed to do 13 repetitions in increasing volume, which, man, the increasing volume would get creepy too. And you're gonna get caught because no one's doing this with their parent knowing.
No.
There are many that say that if you break the mirror during the ritual that you set her free, which is...
They do that in an episode of Supernatural.
Yeah, that's in here under my pop culture references. And yeah, so some people say that she'll reveal your future. I was always told 3 times.
Yes, 3 times.
Yeah, which some of them go up to like 100 or something like that. Which honestly, if you were standing in the dark, staring into a mirror, saying a name 100 times, your eyes are gonna play tricks on you.
Yeah, you're literally gonna hallucinate Bloody Mary.
Exactly, which that is... There was this guy at this college who did a study, basically, checking on how long people could stare into mirrors. It was in 2010, and he had 50 people stare into a mirror for 10 minutes in a room with only a 25-watt bulb, and 66% saw huge deformations on their own face.
Ugh.
48 saw monstrous beings not known here on the earth. Others saw deceased parents or animals. I know, that one's sad. And 28% saw a person who they could not identify.
No.
Little did they know it was their future spouse.
Yeah, little did they know.
They didn't have to be scared or nothing.
And how many of those people also suffered a psychotic break after that experience? Because that would be me. If I saw something in the mirror, I'd be like, we're done!
I think we should do this. I think we should go to the bathroom for 10 minutes and stare in the mirror and see what happens. If we survive.
I know.
Or
like, don't have a psychotic break and need to be checked into an asylum.
It'd also be really funny if we just, like, happen to get murdered after pausing.
Oh
just because then it would seem like as if Bloody Mary had done it. And that's just funny. So, of course, there are, like, different things going into this. This one thing that I'll mention quickly, but it annoys the crap out of me. This guy, you know what? I'm not even going to say his name. I have it written here, but I'm not. I don't like him. He has this, like, stupid Freudian take on it where he's like... Oh, it's these women who are right about to go into puberty and they're in the bathroom and oh, it's bloody, it's scary, it's all about, like, our period, supposedly.
No.
And it's like, no, these things have nothing to do with each other. Like, you're so stupid and gross. Obviously, there are many different women who this supposedly could be based on. One of them, who it probably is not, is Mary, Queen of Scots. She sought the help of her cousin, Queen Elizabeth I, but was instead imprisoned and put to death. The first 2 blows to decapitate her did not work, and the executioner ended up having to saw her head off.
Yikes.
Yeah.
I also think I heard that Queen Elizabeth's sister, who was queen before her...
Yeah, stop guessing. I don't... What, do you think that I don't have that here, honestly?
Maybe. I don't know if I was just crazy and made that fact up.
Okay. So, one that is much more likely is Mary the First, which is Queen Elizabeth's sister. They often call her Bloody Mary, like, even now. And it's not just because she had endometriosis.
No.
So, when Mary was 11, when her father started, like, hoeing around, and she was told to act like a servant to Elizabeth, like, she was just really treated very terribly. She was forced to sign something saying that she was illegitimate, even after he had already killed Anne. She burned, like, 300 Protestants at the stakes. That's, like, the real, like, bloody part of her.
She was very Catholic.
Yes. Well, I mean, honestly, I think a lot of that was just sibling rivalry with, like, how entrenched both of them got. I don't even know how much either of them actually care.
Yeah.
Who knows? One thing that is sad, though, is she wasn't even allowed to marry until she was 37 and took the crown.
Yikes.
And she clearly had been really wanting a family because she had a phantom pregnancy.
Oh, no.
So what they say when people believe that it's her, they say that she'll appear holding the baby that never was.
Nope.
Yeah, real creepy. Now, one of the people who gets talked about a lot is Elizabeth Bathory. So obviously this one's weird because her name's not Mary, but she is a prolific serial killer. She's known as the Bloody Countess.
Oh.
She was in Hungary in like 1560, and she suffered from seizures, probably because of all the inbreeding in her family.
Yeah.
And supposedly one of the treatments at the time was to put the blood of a non-epileptic person on their lip, or even drink the blood with some of the crushed skull, which seems crazy.
That does seem insane.
She allegedly gave birth at 13 to a peasant boy's child that her parents made her give away. Basically, it seems as though she was fairly normal at first, and then her husband would come home from war with all these like crazy stories of like the torture and terrible things that they would do there, and I guess he liked it, and I guess so did she. And so supposedly then and there isn't like a ton of evidence on this, so like it may have happened, it may not have.
Yeah.
People may have just like demeaned this woman. Who knows?
Yeah, I think I have heard a report. I think I've also heard that some experts believe that this is propaganda against her.
Absolutely. And so honestly, I don't know. I think it could go either way. I will say that from what I'm guessing, I think that at the very least she was pretty mean to her servants.
Yeah.
If she wasn't just straight up killing them. But so that's how it started, is that she would take it out on her servants. Because as Countess, she could give out whatever punishment she wanted for whatever. And so she would like tie a person to a tree and drop honey all over them and let ants come and like eat at them and things like that. Like just like horrifying punishments that weren't okay or appropriate. And then what she started doing after those weren't enough victims is that she started a finishing school in her house where she would invite the young women from the village.
And this is a big part of what I heard was like propaganda against her. Because I feel like I also heard the other like rulers in the area didn't like her, or like she was like more progressive or something even.
Too,
yeah, and she was super rich. She was like crazy rich.
She was crazy rich. Supposedly she took baths in the victim's blood, thinking that it would reverse aging. Supposedly there were anywhere between 80 and 650 victims. Possibly. I will say that there were a lot of people dying at her house. And to be fair, there were just a lot of people at her house because she had a lot of servants and stuff like that. So who knows? But one thing that was weird is that like when it started being like too many people dying, the priest went over to be like, can I like look at them to like make sure that it looks like they died of tuberculosis? And she would like not show the corpses and stuff like that.
Well, according to him.
Yeah, according to the priest, yeah.
And I mean, like, if they're all like in a house and it's closed quarters, it would be easy for tuberculosis to spread.
It would. I mean, I'm just saying. The priest did not have anything fiscally to gain. I guess I'm saying that the people who did lie about her, or could have lied about her, because we don't know. It could be either way. Like, literally, the truth is just that at this point, there's no evidence to say either way. But it was a peasant girl was one of the main people who spoke out against her. And so there were people who spoke out against her who did have stuff to gain for sure. And then there were other people who did speak out who didn't necessarily at least have like a direct fiscal gain. I mean, there could have been something going on behind the scenes. Yeah. We don't know. So, okay, what I have written here contradicts one of the other things that I read today, so I don't know which is true. Because what I have written here is that she died in jail and was first buried in the town, but they were like not having it. And so she was moved to a crypt, but then her body went missing. But what I read today was more along the lines of that, like, during the trial, she ended up forgiving someone's debt of this guy who owed her a ton of money, and then nothing else ever happened with the trial.
Like, let her go!
Yeah, like, I guess she got put on house arrest or something, pretty much.
Like, this is why we were accusing her of all those heinous crimes anyway. Let her go!
Yeah. So I'm not positive. So there are a bunch of random ones that people will say, and then it does kind of sort of tie in similar with yours, where there's one that people will talk about where they'll say that she'll appear to you on the road later, and then you'll pick her up as if she's a hitchhiker, and then
that's a different episode of Supernatural.
Yeah, and then she'll be gone, but she'll leave like a blood stain where she's at. More people who want to tie it back to the period. Yeah, so it's Mary Wales is the one who's like the vanishing hitchhiker. Yeah, and then as far as local references in pop culture go, like you said, it's been in Supernatural, it's been in Charmed. They've done an episode of it on the regular show in South Park. She is in several video games, but none that like really stuck out. And then also Lady Gaga has a song about her.
Oh yeah, that became very popular because of the Wednesday show. Well, it's actually a TikTok.
I know, it's in my notes. I don't know why you're like this.
I'm just trying to be conversational.
Anyway, that's what I have about Bloody Mary.
I will say that episode of Supernatural is like probably the scariest episode of Supernatural. And I would say that this show is generally not that scary to me, but like that one is like actually kind of like
oh, that's good.
Yeah.
It's always fun when something's like a little scary. Yeah, so that's what I have about Bloody Mary. Amanda, do you want to tell us about the Hook Man?
Yes! That's probably like my like favorite urban legend, and there's a million different versions. But the main version was originally published in a 1960s article of Dear Abby.
Oh, really?
I know, crazy.
Yeah.
goes like this. This is directly quoting that article, and it's real short, so. A fellow and his date pull into their favorite lover's lane to listen to the radio and do a little necking. The music was interrupted by an announcer who said there was an escaped convict in the area who had served time for rape and robbery. He was described as having a hook instead of a right hand. The couple became frightened and drove away. When the boy took the girl home, he went around to open the door for her. Then he saw a hook on the door handle. I know. So good.
Simple. That's all you need.
And that's like the very like simple version. There's other variations where they hear a noise, like a scraping noise, and the boy goes to investigate and doesn't come back, and then she goes out and finds him hanging, and his fingernails or his boots scratching the top, or his head's gone, or he's been gutted and there's blood dripping on the roof of the car. And this is all like versions. It's all kind of funny because it's versions. They like argue about this in I Know What You Did Last Summer. They go over like all the different like kind of accounts, and I just love that part. So good. Mm-hmm. I rewatched it recently, and the funniest part is like Freddie Prinze Jr. is telling it to Jennifer Love Hewitt. Like it's like the first time she's ever heard it, and like they're all going, and then Sarah Michelle Gellar and Ryan Felipe both interrupt him with their version. He's like, no, this is how it goes. And then Jennifer Love Hewitt's like, well, I heard it this way. And then to see the look on Freddie Prinze Jr.'s face when he's like, how have you heard this?
It's so good. I'm telling you, there's a lot of synergy in this season. We're talking about vamps. We're talking about Hookman.
Yes.
I mean, not vamps, aliens.
Yes. And so the origins are mainly unknown. It was pretty widespread in the 1950s, and it appears in that Dear Abby article in the 60s. And this Snoops writer, David Mickelson, thinks the story evolved from the Texarkana Moonlight Murders of 1946. Yeah, it's this weird little town that's actually in Texas.
Okay.
And so the murders are still unsolved to this day.
Ooh.
And a majority of them occurred at lovers' lanes. But there was no hook involved. They were shot with guns. Not unlike the Zodiac killings,
Yeah.
but a lot sooner.
From jelly incels.
Yeah. And the first victims survived.
Not unlike the Zodiac.
Yeah. And they describe the killer as being 6 foot tall, either a very tan white man or a light-skinned black man. Under 30, and he was wearing a white mask with holes cut out for the eyes and mouth. Yeah.
Like that.
No. But there's also something racist that I saw. Stuff is like one of the lead investigators like, there's no way it could have been a black man because the crime was like, they're not intelligent enough, basically. I was like, are you kidding me?
It's insane.
Whatever. And so 3 different attacks, all couples. 2 of them were at a lover's lane. The first couple survives. The second couple does not. The third couple were in their early 30s. They were only a year apart. Much better. They were married. They were attacked in their home.
They didn't need no lover's lane.
No, exactly. It's also funny because I just watched an episode of Unsolved about this attack, and they talk about how we need to have like safe places for teens to make out. Because I like tried to look up more to see if there was like pre-1950s like attacks on lovers' lane that might be more similar to the Hookman legend. There's too many. There's too many lover lanes killings from the 40s to the 70s to now. Do not park. End of story.
Do people still do that?
I mean, if you're a teenager and you can't, like, have sex or, like, make out at home, where are you gonna go? You don't really have money to get, like, a hotel.
Well, I guess to me it's just weird to think of, like, these parents not letting their teens be in the house. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you can be in the house, but a lot of people don't have, like, a room like this one. Downstairs, separated from their parents. It's the living room or your bedroom, and most parents don't let boyfriends and girlfriends in the bedroom.
Yeah.
So what are you gonna do? Make out on the living room couch for anyone to just see? Your mom, dad?
I mean, if no one's, like, out there, you would think. I don't know.
No, anyone can just walk in at any time. But yeah.
I just don't know anyone who, like, was really doing much in I mean, if anything, actually, it's more so, like, as adults. Well, I guess these just weren't the type of people I was hanging out with, is the real truth. Because I'm like, now that I think about it, I'm like, no, I do know some boys who have had these experiences, but...
I mean, I've had friends who have, like, made out. Like, we're all hanging out, and then they went somewhere with the guy in a park. Or in, like, one of those sheds in the parking lot of a Lowe's or Home Depot. And
those sheds?
Yeah, it was, like, a Lowe's or Home Depot, and there's just, like, you know, like, the sheds that they sell that are, like, prefab. Look! They were underage, and there was nowhere else to go!
I do love the idea of you're worried about someone walking in the living room, but you're gonna go sit in a public park.
But it's like the nighttime. It's like late. And it's not your parents.
It is very scary to be in a park at night. Like, there's just nothing creepier.
But it's not as creepy. I don't know. It's not as creepy when you're like with your friends.
I don't know.
Because you're
My
just being a
friend,
hoodlum.
my friend Gray and Busy and I, we one time were like just in the mood to like be wild, and so we went to a park and we were gonna like walk the trail at night, and literally just steps into it, we were like, no,
No, I would not walk the trail.
We were like, this is
They were
so
making out on the
creepy.
playground.
Okay, that makes more sense to me.
Yeah, it's like a park and a playground,
Yeah.
and there's benches, and you're making out there.
Dirty little degenerates. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm just thinking of like the poor kids playing there the next day.
Look, I mean,
I guess the moral of the story is parents, give your kids some room to breathe.
yeah. Have a designated make-out area. I don't know. I mean, kids are gonna do what kids are gonna do.
If you're a kid and you're listening to this, if you wait to make out, you're not missing much. It's fine. Like,
I don't know. I like making out.
yeah, that is not the brand that we should be selling to these kids. I mean, it's all well and good, but I feel like people a lot of times try to be like, no, you regret the things you didn't do. I don't think that's always the case for making out. I think that lots of people look back on some of their makeouts and are like, I could have passed.
I don't know. I'm like, I could have made out more. I could be making out more now.
I mean, get it. You're an adult. Like you said, you have this great place for it.
Anyway, yes, it's a dope park. Not because of whatever premarital sex or whatever stigmas are there, but because you will get murdered. It's just how it is. People like to murder people who are making out in cars. I don't know what to tell you. But the other couple, they're murdered in their home. Well, actually, just the husband's murdered. He gets shot through the window. And the wife gets shot, I think a couple of times, but is able to escape. I think she gets shot in the head, and the bullet gets stuck under her tongue.
Oof.
And she's able to go to the neighbor's house to get help, like a boss.
So he shot through the window? So did the person ever come in?
He tried to come in through the window, and that's when she ran away.
Good for her.
Yeah. And there's 2 movies made about this specific event. They're both called The Town That Dreaded Sundown.
They're both called that?
Yeah. Made in the 70s, and it's about, I want to say that's Gonzalez's investigation, but that's not how I've ever seen Gonzalez spelled.
Yeah, I don't know.
And then the second one is a meta sequel / remake of the first one that came out in 2014. Also, something that's a little messed up and twisted about this whole story is this movie that was made by, I think he was a local. He, grew up hearing the legend, and that's why he made the movie. He made his movie in the 70s. The Texarkana's Park and Recreation have movies in the park and show this movie every year since 2003.
That's really funny. Man, that's so insensitive to, the victims' families.
I mean, I guess it's been long enough that the people closest to the victims have probably passed.
But still, their grandkids are around. I mean, not that long. I guess they didn't have kids. They were, early 30s.
Yeah. It's a little insensitive. The reason why the sequel is a meta sequel remake is because the festival that shows the movies is happening during the movie.
Oh, very nice.
And so, back to our legend. So, really the only connection it has is the Lover's Lane aspect, a couple being attacked. Mm-hmm. There's a literary scholar, Christopher Piddard, to trace the plot back to Victorian literature in the 1913 horror novel The Lodger by Marie Adelaide Bullock Loudons. Sure. But I did kind of look back, and there's I don't think I took the time to read the whole thing, but I don't think there's that many similarities. But apparently, according to this man, the 2 stories have little in common, but they share a threefold relationship of crime, dirt, and chance. The Lodger was inspired by the Jack the Ripper murders in Whitechapel, and it's considered the example of how to write a psychological suspense due to its focuses on the effects of the serial killer has on the main cast instead of the murders themselves, because it's about these people that own this dying inn, and this lodger comes and stays, and they're like, oh, finally, someone's staying here. This is gonna save the business. And he's staying here for a while, and they keep hearing about the murders. And then they're, starting to piece together, I think it's him. But they're like, ooh, the money.
Aww.
And so I think they, kind of start to, freak out and, lose it. They're like, what if we're next? What if he kills us? And then I have some folklorist BS that I think there's Alan Dundee's Freudian interpretation saying that the hook is a phallic symbol and its amputation symbolizes castration.
I like how we both had some stupid Freudian.
I know. Then there's a Swedish folklorist, not going to bother trying to say his name, who describes the story as an example of a conflict between representatives of normal people who follow the rules of society and those who are not normal, who deviate and threaten the normal group. And then there's American folklorist Bill Ellis, who interprets the maniac in The Hook as a moral custodian. The man with the hook is disability as his own lack of sexuality and is threatened by the normal sex drives of the teenagers.
Jelly and Cell, like I said.
And so, like, that's why he attacks them. And he wrote a whole paper on it. I didn't read the whole thing because you had to check it out from the library. And it had to be, like, it's like a Scholastic article. I don't know. It's crazy.
Sounds like a lot.
But I read, like, a little bit of it, and, like, the beginning part was available to read. And his version of the legend, it gives the Hookman a backstory, where the Hookman was just some young guy, and he had a girlfriend, and then he's in this horrible accident. He loses his hand, replaces it with a hook. His girlfriend's like, ew, and breaks up with him. And then, so now he's crazy with his hook, and he's like, I'm gonna kill teenagers because I don't get to have a normal sex life, so no one does.
Gotta find someone who will love you for you.
Yeah, but I think most people would probably agree. It's just to try and stop teenagers from going out and partying and having sex and stuff like that.
Except for the fact that the danger is very real.
Yes, it is very real. So
You were just determined for these people to go down.
And then so there's a ton of instances of it occurring in pop culture. There's actually one that is pre the Dear Abby article, pre-1950s. There's the hook-handed killer in Dick Tracy's story, Dick Tracy's Dilemma, from 1947. It's a guy who's murdering people with insurance fraud being the motivation. Not those pesky teenagers. I was reading the like breakdown of the story. It's very much if an episode of Scooby-Doo involved murder. Because it's, I don't know, he's just like doing all this and it's like, oh, Matt Jenkins. It also appears in Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which was written in 1981. The story is titled The Hook. And it's very much like the Freddie Prinze Jr. version of the story. Where it's just like, oh, they just went out to like hang out. And then the radio came on and they're like, oh no. And he's like, oh, well, we don't need to go. And she's like, can we please leave? And he's like, but I don't want to. And then they do, and he's like, fine, like, whatever. She's like, you want some hot cocoa? And he's like, no. And he gets the door, and there's the hook.
Can you imagine how mad the hook-handed guy was, being like, oh, crap, do you know how expensive it is to replace that hook?
Prosthetics don't come cheap, you know? Yeah, and so if you love the Legend of the Hook, man, there's tons of, like, examples of it in movies and television. It's a slasher film, Final Exam, opens with a scene which a couple are attacked in a parked car, and the students are murdered in a university locker room with a hook. Campfire Tales 1997 is an anthology horror film that opens with a segment relating to the Hook legend set in the 1950s. Probably going to be very close to the story. The Candyman films, obviously, we already talked about that. The Pest House from 1998. It's the 14th episode in season 2 of that show. It's also in season 1, episode 7 of Supernatural. There's a hook-handed legend episode. There's like a bunch of those urban legend like shows where they go, you know, is it fake or is it fiction, like kind of thing. And even a Canadian animated anthology series called Freaky Stories. It's also referenced in a bunch of comedies. There's Meatballs. Bill Murray's character retells the Hook legend to campers around a campfire. Shrek the Halls.
Okay.
And then, of course, there's the Hookman parody, Graveyard Shift in SpongeBob, with the hash-slinging slasher who has a spatula instead of a hook for a hand.
It's so good.
It's one of my favorite episodes.
It's
Love
amazing.
it. The hash-slinging, the mash-ringing, the hash-slinging slasher! And it's also a plot device in an episode of Community, in the episode Horror Fiction in 7 Easy Steps. Apparently it also received a resurgence on the internet in retellings on 4chan. But yeah, that's the Legend of the Hookman.
Very interesting.
I will say, I've seen both of the Town That Dreaded Sundown, and the second one, The Murderer, is very hot.
It's always a draw.
It is. And so those were our takes on these two classic urban legends. And if you want to learn more about more urban legends and you want to hear more episodes, feel free to reach out to us on social media.
Also, let us know if you have any, like, cool stories revolving around these. I would love
Oh my
that.
gosh, I would love a Hookman story.
Yes, Dream of Dreams.
Real life Hookman story? Probably has been one.
Yeah. If you have a real Bloody Mary story, I promise to believe you when Amanda tries to tear it down.
All right, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Scary Movie Clubcast, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll see you next movie night, and don't forget there are 35 days till Halloween.
Bye.
Bye! Live from the Clubhouse, it's the Scary Movie Clubcast. This is Amanda.
And Nadine.
We didn't think about a movie.
Weird.
Live from the Clubhouse, it's a Scary Movie Clubcast. This is Amanda.
And Nadine.
And tonight we watched, what was it called? The Vampire's Kiss?
Yeah, I think it's just called Vampire Kiss.
Or Kiss of the Vampire.
No, I think it's just called, let's Google. I think it's be on pause.
So stupid.
Found it at Dollar Tree. I bought it for several people. Yeah, Vampire's Kiss.
Okay. And tonight we watched A Vampire's Kiss.
I like how you asked, and then you still just said it however you wanted.
Wait, I didn't say it right?
Didn't you say A Vampire's Kiss?
Is it not what
It's
you
just
said?
Vampire's Kiss.
Oh my gosh. Let me get to my notes. Okay, that...
Solid start.
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to... This attack. Marie Adelaide. Oh gosh, why is her name so long? Bullock Lodins,
Where is it? Oh, yeah.
who interprets sexual experimentation of young couples. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I was like wondering how this would go, and so I listened to our conspiracy theories episodes. That's like what it reminds me of.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point when you were talking about Nero, Mackenzie just goes, "I've stopped following all of this." And I was dead. It was so and he was like, "It's been over my head for the last 5 minutes now."
Oh boy.
Well, at least we didn't like go on and on and on way too long.
Yeah. No, how should I close it? Just.
Yeah. You can follow it? No.
Bye.
Bye. Wait, we should say bye one more time in case we want to cut the laughter.
Okay.